So let's get started. One of the first FAQs that I had recently is, let's see here. Number one is the following. I've been thinking about what it's going to be like for me starting branding and thinking of a business. Do you have any tips for brainstorming or the preparation process? Yes, I am a firm believer that, people don't buy a product, merchandise, or service, they buy you. So in thinking about branding, I would think strategic, I would think authentically, I would think even about what it is you want to put out into the world. So in being mentored and being coached over the years, there's a couple of things that really stand out to me in regards to branding and then just putting yourself out there. The first thing is, what do you want to be known for, right? So whatever it is that the brand you're putting out for, it's going to be you. People are going to know you as such. Like, I think it's really funny and it's interesting, but my name is Zeahlot and it's the only one in the world. Literally, my name's the only one out there because of the H. And constantly I have people reaching out and they're like, hey Vida, and I'm like, hey, thanks so much, but that's not my name. And that just goes to show that branding goes a long way. So I branded it, Vida Therapy across all of it, right? Like the Vida system, Vida Therapy, the Vida shop. Like every single stream of income I've had has been Vida stamped on it. So people seem to think for some odd reason that that's my name, but that's great branding, right? So that's the first thing I would say. And then the second thing that really uberly stands out is the following, that strategically, if you're going to pick a brand, stick with that brand and that handle across the board. I'm talking about like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, like anything you can think of across the board. Like keep your branding on point. So if you're going to be like Nike, just do it like across the board on everything. Let people know who you are because you're going to take up space like very soon. So I think that's really important in regards to branding. And then lastly, it's that whole like authentic part, right? Like, is it you? What do you stand for? What's your philosophy? What's your mission? Like, what is it that you truly want to put out into the world? And I think it's so important. People don't talk about this. I have to tell you that I spent years in school. I'm talking about forever. Like, I'm 33 now, but I've been in school my entire life. I'm still in school of life, and they don't teach you these things when you're going to be a mental health professional, when you're going to be a teacher, when you're going to just help the world. They expect you to just help, and right now in these, type of pandemics, it's like, well, where are we at with the helpers, right? I mean, we want thriving businesses, but if we can't help ourselves, what are we going to do, right? So right now, there's a big saying that says leaders show up in times of crises. I completely 110% agree. Right now, we're all uberly noticing who has a well foundation for their business, their life, their support team, all of it. Like I can't help but humorously think like, dang, like I have some really great people around me and in my life, like they check to see if I had toilet paper. Because I've set it out there, like I didn't even have time to go to the store before Corona happened, and then I had no toilet paper, and then all of a sudden I had like 3 packages of it. So I gave one out, right? I kept one, and then I just figured, life is full of abundance and it would provide for me, and boom, there was my result. And it's just like cash, resources. You want to definitely disperse it out into the world and it comes back to you. So it's this mindset, right? So in answering the last part of branding, because once again, I'll repeat it for those of you that are just joining us, I've been thinking about what it's going to be like for me to start branding and thinking of a business. Do you have any tips for the brainstorming preparation process? Yeah, the last part, besides really just being strategic about it for the handles across the board, across all social media platforms, in addition to that is really just thinking like, what do you want to be known for, right? Like, what is it that you're specifically trying to do or re-innovate in your field, right? Like for me, it's this idea that if we're helpers, if we're mental health professionals, we're going to be poor the rest of our life. No, thank you. That is not an idea I want to subscribe to, nor do I believe in. I believe that we work really hard for what we do. We're professionals. We're well-rounded. I happen to be a woman that's a businesswoman, melanin. I grew up with this idea that I'm supposed to work for somebody for the rest of my life and then just retire and expect retirement to take care of me. We're all seeing that that's not a reality. Even now, they're putting out all these programs and saying like, yeah, we're going to help out and everybody's going to get this. Yeah, but when? Are we talking about July? Are we talking about August? In the meantime, you're going to be your own lifesaver. You're going to be your own lifeboat that gets you through this. Show up for yourself. So lastly, in regards to the branding is the authenticity part. So what I'd really like to say to that is the following. if you build a brand and you really want to know what people will know you for, it's what you will do and what you will say and how you show up in the world. So this is really great book that I've been doing as part of my program at USC. And I'm just going to share it with you guys. And if those of you that are my sisters at USC, you know how amazing this book is. So I'm just going to hold it up. It's called True North Field Book. And I'm going to show it here on the gram too. And it's fantastic. It's great. And you know, there's this chapter and it's called Leading with Authenticity, and it goes through your values. And then it also goes into like your life story. So this is chapter 1. And what I'll say to you about branding is that people really relate to realness and authenticity. I don't know if some of you have watched like the video I posted up about my memory when I was 6, about my mom just digging through like the bottom of her purse and being like, dang, I wonder if we're gonna have enough for 2, kid meals. The reality was we didn't have it, and I didn't understand why my parents, working 12 hours, 6 days a week, didn't have enough for 2 of us because it was me and my sister. I don't get it still. I don't. And it's something that stuck with me so often that as I share my stories, my authenticity, people just really relate to that. They relate to the realness of it, and I just can't help but feel like that's the branding right there. It's knowing like where they come from, where they're going, and what they're doing with it. So that answers that question. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. I'm just gonna go through this. You got me for the next 30 minutes because it's nothing going on except Corona and the rent, right? We all know that rent was due. So number 2, how did you find a lawyer that specializes or works with practitioners? Did you use a Google search, or is there a certain distinction I should be looking for? Great question. Okay, so I'll say this. There's different therapists, there's different types of chefs, there's different types of professionals in all manners. I think it's important to understand that there's also different types of attorneys and different types of lawyers and any of that, right? So I've had a couple of different ones throughout the years in building my businesses. And an important factor to remember here is that there's lawyers that trademark, there's lawyers that establish entities, there's family lawyers, there's corporate lawyers, there's all types. So I use 3 different ones. A really good friend of mine actually recommended that I go with a trademarking lawyer to trademark a lot of my branding and what I was doing. And then another one actually recommended that I start with a lawyer that goes into real estate. And the reason being for that is because it's a great way to create wealth, and it's a great way to diversify the funds, right? And I'll share with you guys that in being, a young woman of color, being an entrepreneur, obviously you have to find tax shelters. You have to find different ways to be like, wait a minute, like if the market goes down, let me invest in this stock, let me invest in this and that. Yesterday, I was part of this coaching group myself because I believe in eating the tacos I serve. So if I'm a therapist, I go to therapy. If I'm a coach, I get coached, If I'm trying to show somebody how to draw something, I should have taken that class before. I think a really big red flag for me when people ask like, what do you look for? What should I ask when I'm looking for a therapist? Do they go to therapy? Like, to me, that's common sense. Like, where are they unloading their things? Are they really truly living their authenticity and their truth? So in saying that, it's important to have different types of diversification with the funds or the cash that you're making. You want to park your money in certain areas for certain times. So right now, it might not be a good idea to park it in a certain way. So just move it in a different direction. There's this really great book called Who Moved My Cheese? And I read it like all the time. I read it over and over. I listen to that one. I listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad. I listen to The One Thing, just as like a friendly reminder of the mindset of literally helping me through this and through a global pandemic more than anything. I share that link with a lot of you, right? It's free, like it's on YouTube. They literally just read the book and all you got to do is chill and listen. It literally just grows your mind. I've shared this with others, but I don't have Netflix. I don't have a TV. I don't have Hulu. Like I just read, like that's all I do, or I work on other things. Another great book right now, part of my program that I'm reading is the following, and this one's actually for women. So this one's called Your Own Terms, and it's by Dr. Yasmin David. She's the founder of the program that I'm doing at USC, and she's fantastic. Like I have nothing but wonderful things to say. But the book itself really teaches women how to negotiate, and I think that everything in life is absolutely negotiable. Like there's nothing on earth. Like if you guys really want to learn how to negotiate, I would say talk to like a 5-year-old. A 5-year-old that wants ice cream or a cookie before dinner. They will win. Like they just have such great tactics, and it's great to know that, right? My business is based in creating media, yet I sometimes feel like my equipment is inadequate. I think it's connected to a larger feeling doubt type of vibe. How do you get past this doubt? Oh my gosh, girl, yes, we all have it. So I'm gonna share that some days I wake up and I'm a savage, and there's some days I wake up and I feel like I'm nothing. Like I feel like, what? Like I don't even have my nails painted. So there's days where we're all gonna have, but the question is, how are you gonna show up for yourself? How are you gonna show up for others? And I think what really gets me through the day is really knowing that, you know, I have an entire team that needs leadership, and I need to learn from them and they need to learn from me. So it's these amazing group of women that really just keep me going and like, all right, like how are we going to change the world today? Like how are we going to show up for others? How are we going to set the foundation and the grounding and make change little by little as women of color? That is so important to me. That is literally part of our mission and philosophy at the, you know, at our empire, like at Vida System, Vida Therapy, all of it. It's for us and by us. It's something that I didn't have growing up. I know for a fact when I started to look for a therapist, I was like, this was way back in like 2012. It's been like 8 years since I've been going to therapy, and I was like, where do I even start? There was nothing. Now really, you know, some really good friends of mine have started directories, and they're for Latinx, and they're for melanin, and they're for people of color, and there's so many of them now that didn't exist before. May this continue, may this change just transpire, and even after this, like how do you find a therapist that is bomb online during a global pandemic? I mean, that's a great question. Maybe there should be a directory for that. Like when crises goes down, who do we go to? I think some tips that somebody asked earlier was like, how do I look for a therapist that still is within my budget, but is worth my time? Great, fantastic question. I think that when you're trying to build a business, it's really important, especially if you're a mental health professional or wellness provider, that you are on point yourself. Like, I still don't understand how a therapist that wants to charge cash pay for a client, but isn't willing to pay that themselves, can understand what that is like. I feel like there's this flow with money where money doesn't like to sit still. It likes to flow and just be given and receive. It's like this balance, right? But if we don't know what that's like, how can we do it? If you want to be this coach and you're not willing to pay into yourself and be coached yourself and know what that's like, how are you going to glow up? How is that going to happen? I'll share with you that the first time I ever, paid a coach, I was like, whoa, like how am I ever going to pay this? But I made it happen. Everything that I paid them, I made back within I promise you, 8 weeks, because they taught me how to make more and quicker. It's working smarter, not harder. So the answer to that is 3 things. I think if you're looking for a therapist, the most important thing to look for is 1, do they go to therapy themselves and with what frequency, and are they willing to be transparent about it? Number 2 is how open are they to shifting to what it is that you need? I'll be honest, over the years, I've had different therapists, and some were not open at all to phone call therapy or telehealth therapy. Where are they at now? Because this is exactly the time you need a therapist that can just do both, right? Get you a therapist who could do both. Get you a therapist that's willing to say, hey, listen, if you're driving and you're just losing it and you need help, let me give you a call. If you're at home, you just had a baby, you can't leave the house, you don't have a babysitter, let's jump on a telehealth. That's important. And then lastly, I think it's really important to know, what is their orientation? How do they work? Do they work in the future? Do they work in the present? What is it about them that really just stands out? And if you see your therapist online or in person, I think their vibe is so important. I have to tell you that I have so many clients that are so amazing, and they're just I don't feel shame. I could just talk how I talk and tell you what's vibing, tell you what's not. And that's what matters. Is your therapist relatable? Are you relatable? Can you be human in that moment and just be you know what? Yes, I've had that moment too. I have parents, I have siblings, I have friends, and things are not perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. That authenticity piece is so important. And if you're having a huge amount of trouble finding a therapist, my biggest suggestion is go on psychologytoday.com. It's great. Go to the filter side, right? You go to the how to find a therapist, type in your zip code, and then look by the insurance you have. Don't have insurance, you're looking for a female, a male, somebody who's bomb, click that. I wish they had bomb therapists that go to therapy themselves and take care of themselves. I would check off that box immediately, but that's not part of the process, right? So that's 1. So let's see. In answering the question, my business is based in creating media, yet sometimes I feel like my equipment is inadequate. I would say just do it anyways, like see what comes out of it. I'll share with you that, and even doing these videos now, they're super easy for me. Like I just turn on my ring light on one side, like my phone holder in the other. I got this little stand going on. It's easy now, but it's taken me years to get there. I invested in a speaking coach for many years, and I invested in a Spanish coach. Why? Because I speak Spanish. I grew up with it. It was my first language, but speaking it eloquently in a different manner, that's a whole different ball game. But it pays off. Like it's paid off for me because then you get speaking events, and then you get, media appearances, and you get other stuff that will really give you a platform to make change in the world that you want to make. All right, so my answer is do it anyways. Feel the fear and do it anyways. Any programs you recommend to learn about stocks? I got scared thinking about it. Yeah, I learned about one yesterday, so let me share that. But once again, disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor or any of that. It's called stashinvest.com. I can actually shoot you that link via email. I can do that for you. So give me a quick sec and I'll send that to you. But that's Stash Invest. I learned about that yesterday. And you want to look for stocks that historically have been really expensive, but right now they've plummeted. So you can obviously think of industries that have just taken a dip right now. But once again, you want to go with a financial advisor and see what they recommend. So hope that helps. All right, so we have another one. Hey Z, I'm getting ready to start my MFT program in July at USC. Any advice? I'm so excited. So we'll probably run into each other on campus because I'm on campus. Well, not right now, obviously, but probably towards the end of the year, we'll run into each other. I'll be there on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because that's my life. Any advice? Yes. I would start ASAP right now learning what school's not going to teach you. So here's the harsh reality, and may I be wrong, but thus far nothing has proven me otherwise. So I've been in school since the age of like professionally, right? I've been in school since the age of 16. So when I was 16, my mom, she put me in beauty school. She didn't want me to get into trouble, have babies, or get dead, or just, get into trouble. So they put me into beauty school, and it was important for me to learn that because I had to balance work at 15, beauty school, and then school. So I was a full-time, high school student. I was a senior. I was in beauty school full-time also because that program was Tuesday through Saturday, and that was full-time. That was no joke. Taught me responsibility, consistency, but dedication, showing up for myself. And then lastly, what it really taught me is being responsible of when things are due. So people think that beauty school is easy or whatnot, but it's not. It really set me up for college. So when I finished high school, I actually graduated beauty school. And what that did is it literally gave me the cash to pay for school, and I was loan free. So my advice to you, Jazz, more than anything I recommend, Catherine, to you, is be very clear with what it is that you want, because I'm pretty sure USC is a nice penny. You want to get your money back of what you're investing. So my biggest thing is the first year that you graduate from school, what is it that you want to accomplish? Have goals for yourself. Every year I set a goal for myself, but additionally, I also think to myself, where do I want to be in 3 years? What do I want to be in 5 years and 10 years? Where I am today currently, I fleshed that out in my head in 2012. And I had just started graduate school. So my answer to that is simply be proactive, manifest what it is that you want, and know the population that you're really geared towards. More than likely, your avatar, your yummy client that you want to work with is somebody who is in either a future sense of who you are, a past sense, or something that you yourself are still struggling with. I'll show transparently that, I started this curriculum, this great program for Latinx with difficult mamas, because come on now, who doesn't have a difficult mama? I had a difficult mama. So it stems from my own challenges, my own pain points, and I feel to myself there must be a tribe out there. There must be other people who are challenged with this as well. So that's a reason why you create what isn't out there. You create solutions, right? It's kind of like Bill Gates, starting what he started because it didn't exist and having a pain point. Or Steve Jobs knowing hey, everybody eventually is going to have a personal computer. change the world. Like, I have an iPhone, I have a Mac right now, right? So just think futuristically, think highly. And I would highly suggest that you join our free Facebook group. So go ahead and feel free to DM me and I can send you that link. It's for wellness and mental health professionals that want to learn more about the business as I'm streaming this dually, right? So in case you lose this, it's still in the group and you can go back and watch. All right, so I hope that helps, Catherine, and congratulations on getting into the program. 5 of our interns actually just got into their programs for their graduate work, and I'm really excited. All right, so then another person here, hi. How do I know whether to get a coach or a therapist? Great question. So here's the breakdown, and once again, you could take it or leave it, but here's what I've experienced myself. So for the past 4 or 5 years, I've had a therapist and I've had a coach simultaneously. And here's the difference. A therapist is going to work with you on your impairments and your inability to function normally the way you would. What does that mean? That means that a therapist is very strategic, but also very aware of what their lane is and what they're working on. It's the same way I work with clients. If we are working on an impairment and a dysfunction, we are clinically literally only working on that. I'll give you a great example. Let's say I have a woman come and Z, like, I'm just really struggling. I just had my baby. I'm having a really hard time like getting out of bed. Well, that tells me that she's probably dealing with like postpartum, depression, like just something's going on. That's not a place that you want to start with coaching. That definitely would not be a coaching client because their main concern is trying to get out of bed. You can't work on one thing. Like, start with what the primary challenge might be. Once the woman is like thriving, just doing well, her baby's doing good, her business is doing good, like her life is just overall, like she's able to get out of bed and she's thinking now about making moves. She's thinking about like, wait a minute, how am I gonna build my empire? Like, I still wanna stay home with my baby. That's different. That's a business plan. That's literally a step 1, 2, 3. She has this idea, she has this great energy and yumminess to start it, but she doesn't have the know-how. That's a coaching client. So the answer to that is, if you are still struggling with a lot of emotional impairments and in functioning, and it's deeply rooted in anxiety, depression, clinical aspects, get you a therapist. Because if you try and do coaching, more than likely you're either going to struggle, or the smartest thing to do is get you both. I've had a therapist for years that helped me with like the internal work, and if it wasn't for that, I'm beyond grateful for them, because I wouldn't be thriving as much as I am right now, or just still doing really well. It's just like going to the gym. Like, I don't understand people who are say like, oh no, I'm good, like I don't need therapy, that's not for me, that's for crazy people. That's fine and dandy, but how's that different from going to the gym? Like, we tell people, like, take care of your body, take care of your health, go to the gym daily, have 30 minutes minimum of exercise. Well, what about the gym for the mind? What about exercising that? What about getting out all the like junk that we have, especially right now? People who watch the news, I'd say probably more than like half an hour, like that's a lot of trash in there. Where do you get that out? Do you get it out with other people? Do they add on to your trash? Do they let you unload? I mean, it's not easy. Holding space for someone in a very healthy, yummy way with validation, reflection, and not judging, that's rare. We're human. We love to judge. But in therapy, like, that's an hour just for you. That's self-care. So there is a difference between coaching and therapy. Coaching is much more directive. It's like, this is how we do it. And a really good coach will tell you, hey, listen, I can't help but notice there's certain things that are coming up for you. Can I further guide you? Can I provide you with resources in regards to what it is not my scope of practice, what is not my lane? Here's who you can go to. Here's who you can see. For me, I think that's a really good professional in either facet. So when I coach therapists, when I coach women, when I coach other entrepreneurs and business owners, if I'm picking up something and I'm like, wait a minute, like there's something that's just really coming out, they just had a divorce, they just had a separation, they just had a baby, and they're struggling in that way, I will highly recommend get a colleague on deck to see them as a therapist. And then that's what they're working on with them, and what I'm working on with them is just thriving, how to glow up their practice, how to get it poppin', how to get multiple streams of income. So that's what I know within that capacity, that's my job. I also have clients that do have a coach, and that coach is working on them with nutrition, that coach is working on them on how, like even a personal trainer. Like a lot of my clients have different people who help them. It's having the knowledge and the emotional intelligence of knowing who do I need right now and for what. There's experts in all kinds of different fields. I would never go to somebody who doesn't have the need that I have. If I want to learn like how to cook sushi or how to cook a certain thing, like vegan meals, 90% of my diet is 95% vegan. So I would go to a vegan chef. I would go to vegan cooking classes. Why would I go to a class that teaches me something otherwise? So it's knowing what you need from who and does it vibe with you, right? If they don't vibe with your mix, if they're not showing you literally results of like what they're doing or what they're trying, I wouldn't do it. All right, so next question we have. Yes, we have a request to be in here. All right, so gonna feel the fear. Yep, that's right. Best ways to attract your ideal client. Yeah, let's get into that. Best ways to attract your ideal client. So in my coaching program, I call it the avatar / the yummy client, right? The client you just thrive on. You're just like, yes, like give me more of that. So the best thing you can do is this. I would be really clear with myself of who it is you want to see. A lot of people think, I'm attracting the wrong clients, I don't have enough of them, what's going on, am I not good enough? There's this doubt that like creeps in. I would say that is not the problem here. The problem is us. It's you, it's me, it's all of it. So until you get clear with yourself of who you serve, who you want to continue serving, and how you're going to serve them, you're going to be calling in the wrong people. Get crystal clear. Get so clear to where you literally can like flesh them out for me. Tell me where they eat, tell me where they shop, tell me how they think, tell me their pain points. Tell me like what is thoroughly going on, from the itty bitty little like 5-year-old all the way to, the amazing woman that is mature in her life, just knows a lot and really is just going through that third act in her life. So let's take, for example, if you want to start to see mature women within like age 50 that are making transitions from having a full, household with children to an empty nest. Let's just say that that's your population. You literally, on a piece of paper, what you want to do for me is literally write out, where does she work? What does she do with her time? What does she enjoy? What are her hobbies? What are her pain points? Like her kids are gone. Does she feel the need to have like a new role? Is she going through transitions? Does she have a partner? Does she not? Like, what is frequently a pattern that you see within that population? And here's the biggest thing I'm going to say that I think people make a mistake, and something that I love that everybody in my coaching program is like very clear about this, is that if you're not clear with the clients you want to see, the clients you don't want to see will continue coming to you until you say no. It's the same idea that people will treat you according to how you allow them. Clients will continue to see you until you have good boundaries and saying, you know what? I don't see children. I just see adults and that's it. That was a really hard step for me, and I'll share, when I was at my agency for, like 3 years in the contracted DMH, it's rough out there. Like it's productivity. It's like turn around at 24 hours for your notes, drive here, do this, do that, and boom, that's it. Like that was my life. And I love seeing kiddos. I have so many toys and so many techniques for seeing children, and I'm bomb at it. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you need to do it. Just because something's on the table doesn't mean you need to eat it. And that's something I realized through a friend of mine that really was there for me and was like, Z, you're telling me you absolutely thrive seeing women, you do really well with adults. Why are you even debating if you're going to see kids in private practice? In that moment, I was like, thank you. This is why I have bomb therapist friends, because they were right. I didn't need to see children. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you need to do it. So that's my best suggestion and best ways to attract your ideal client. Hope that helps. How do you develop a brand that stands out? How do you develop that? Okay, so that's similar to what we went over earlier today, but I'll go ahead and repeat some of it with a little bit of a difference. So I will say this, when you're branding, aside from what I said earlier of being very authentic with who you are, having strategic consistency across the board on all social media and platforms that you do, and aside from that is really knowing like how do you want to come up and how do you want to show up. So literally like when you Google yourself, like what comes up? I know I've Googled myself millions of times, and I know what comes up is like Latinx therapist, Vida therapy, like the word Vida just beyond uberly like comes out. Like I mentioned this earlier in the live if you guys are watching or not, but people call me Vida and I'm like, that's not my name. My name is Z. Like my name is Zeahlot. It's the only one in the world, right? I would say literally like, what is your golden nugget? What is your diamond? Like what makes you special? So I'll share with you guys that, you know, when I was 5 years old, I was probably supposed to die. My sister and I were in a car accident with my mom, and she picked me up from kindergarten and she put me in the truck, and there was this like back bed that we had on it. And a drunk driver hit us head on a motorcycle. So drunk driver on a motorcycle hits us head on, misses my mom's side by like an itty bitty bit. We roll over into a ditch like a couple times. And I have to tell you, like, it was a miracle that, you know, my sisters and I and my mom walked out without a scratch, like maybe just a few bumps and bruises, but that was it. It was literally a miracle. And it's things like that that make me really think back to like, what is my purpose? What is my mission in life? And this all goes back to like branding, right? So I'll share this with you guys, and you guys can literally check this out on like my websites, the multiple amount that I have. Like I have like 4 or 5 websites right now working on like the 6th and 7th, right? Because that's what I do. During Corona, like, we're getting ready. We're getting ready for when we can go back into the office and whatnot, right? So when I realized and really went back and made a list of all the things that really stood out to me in my life and how maybe a couple times I should have died, right? I thought like, what is my purpose in life? What is my mission? And then it came to me, like literally my purpose and mission in life is to provide others the opportunity to die much more healed than wounded. And that's literally my own purpose, my own mission. If there's anything I'd love to do in this lifetime is to die where I'm much more fulfilled, much more whole, much more healed more than anything. We come into this world, I believe, so authentically, so pure, so innocent. And it's between mistakes and misunderstandings that, you know, things get a little bumpy along the way. But I believe it is our responsibility as humans and as healers to do that for ourselves. And once we kind of figure out the ways along, to role model for others, like how are we doing this? I have no shame in telling people, like I go to therapy every single week and it's so powerful. It's so healing. It's so good to know of like, dang, like I still struggle with things too. It keeps me humble. It keeps me real with my clients of being like, yep, I hear you. Like I got siblings too. Like I got parents too, or, you know, I have friendships to where I doubt myself, and am I coming in authentically? Am I showing up for them, right? It's human to feel this way. So all of that goes into a brand and how it stands out. I have to share with you that most people that find me online, you know, they'll either call in through Yelp or Psychology Today or any of the outlets that I've really just worked on, or just referrals through other people. And they've asked me, Z, like, that's so powerful. Like, that's your mission? Like, you want to help people die much more healed than wounded? Like, yes. That is literally my mission and my purpose. And that's what goes into branding. You said something about authenticity. Why is that important in creating a brand that stands out? Do you have any specific exercises to do, things of reflection, or anything that help people engage and try and access that authentic part? Yeah, definitely. I would say starting with your strengths, but also starting with what you value and your life experiences. Something that I definitely learned within my program at USC and just self-development and therapy and all these other outlets that I'm growing like at 100 miles per hour is that our crucibles are really what makes us and what makes us relatable to other people. So for those of you that know what it is, awesome. For those that don't, a crucible is like this really pivotal, crucial moment in your life that literally just changes you. It could be a positive one. It could be a hurtful one. It could be like just a childhood wound. And I think for me, like one of the biggest crucibles that I've had, you know, growing up is the understanding that you can work so uberly hard and still not have abundance. Because that's not necessarily what equals abundance. And I learned that crucible, that lesson throughout my childhood with my parents. As wonderful and yummy and great, awesome people as my parents are, I didn't learn entrepreneurship from them. What I learned from them is dedication, hustle, don't give up, consistency, and literally like what my parents taught me as like a woman of color, being Latina, like hustle, like get on your grind, like don't give up. Like since I was 15, I'll be honest, like I've always had multiple jobs. Like it was just natural to me. It was just like, okay, Z, you got to do this to get this, and then that's it. By the time I blinked my eyes, you know, it was years later and I was debt free. Like I literally had $95,000 of a master's degree, graduate degree, paying for traineeship to work for free, no debt. And yet it was not easy, but I learned from that literally consistency. The days where I had to wake up at 5 a.m., get my butt to go teach, and then after that do private tutoring, and then after that hit the books, and then go home and still write a paper, that's what pays off. Literally, it's, are you willing to sweat, bleed, and hustle for what it is you're passionate about? I think I'm living proof of that. I literally ooze like my passions, and that's part of your branding. Like, people are attracted to that, so that's important, right? So in answering the authenticity part, really make a list like of your top 3 crucibles and share that with people. I've been sharing that over time about what's coming up for me, right? Like when I started my own business, what it meant to be a CEO, like a woman and a CEO, and what that meant for me in my family. I'm the only one who's done that thus far, and that was scary, and that was like, why are you trying to do this? Like, that's not important. You should be having kids, you should be having babies, you should be home cooking something. And that's fine, that's where they come from, you know. Before my grandmother passed, she asked me, she's like, why are you going to school so much, Mija? You don't need this, you just need to pop out some babies. That's her time, and I honor that, but this is my time, and it's a little bit different now. Women, I think, are really stepping into their light and stepping into, I can be a businesswoman, I can be a mother, I can run stuff and still be all these moving parts, which I think is fantastic. All right, so we have one last question that I'll answer here. So it's, share any online activities to engage kiddos in during this quarantine. Yes, I love it. So a really long time, you know, I was a tutor for children, and I would teach them everything from like French, Spanish, science, math, reading, everything. And it's been great. I love children because they just call you out, you know, like they're great in that way. I have this little 7-year-old that I work with, and she's killing it on Zoom. She's amazing. I'm just like, dang. She showed me the virtual backdrop. Like, she shows me everything. She tells me when my lash isn't completely on there. Like, she just keeps it real, and I adore her. So some things to engage kiddos during the quarantine is Rocalingua. They can learn a new language. Duolingo. They can learn more than Spanish. Rocalingua is more for Spanish. You can go to therapistaid.com, and they have amazing worksheets to work with kids, and they're free. I mean, they're free 99, right? Like, you can't beat that. Another thing you can do online that'll really help them is you can start creating a playlist on YouTube that is for learning. Like, it could be a new language, it could be a new skill, it could be social skills. I've created an entire playlist just of videos that help children understand emotion and just fully step into that. So those are some great activities to help your kiddos during quarantine. Obviously, I mean, be careful with the cookies. I mean, don't give them too many because they're already, you know, inside and they can't, you know, get out that energy. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much for joining. And if you'd like to join the free Facebook group where I drop diamonds on how to build a business, thriving, shoot me a DM. I'll shoot you the link, and then I'll see you in there.